Something a lot of Amazon FBA sellers don't realize is that Amazon makes a lot of mistakes. They can lose inventory in their warehouses, they can miscount stock, or it can just end up getting damaged. And because most of these never get flagged, Amazon don't automatically pay you back. This means there is money sitting there that Amazon owes you, and if you're not actively tracking it, you're not going to end up getting it. Which is why in today's video, I'm going to be walking you guys through exactly how Amazon FBA reimbursements work, and how you can make sure you never miss out on any money that you're owed. Let's get into the video. So before we get into how to go and claim those reimbursements, let's get exactly into what reimbursements there are. So when you go and send your inventory into Amazon's FBA warehouses, it is Amazon's responsibility to keep track of it. But there are loads of mistakes that can happen along the way. For example, your stock might get lost during transit, or when it makes it to the Amazon warehouse, it might end up getting miscounted. Or once it's actually at the warehouse, it might end up getting damaged by an Amazon staff. Or even when you go and sell the item, it may go and get returned by a customer, and then there might be a discrepancy between what the customer says they send back and what you actually receive. Well, if any of those do occur, it is in Amazon's policy that they should go and reimburse you. But the problem is they don't always go and reimburse you, and they're not the hottest on chasing up money to go and give you back. But at the end of the day, there are humans and human error can occur, which means systems maybe are just miscounting. So reimbursements aren't some sort of grey area, loophole, or you trying to get $1 on Amazon. It is literally where they've made a mistake, so you now need to go and get reimbursed for it. So like we've mentioned earlier, there are multiple different sort of reimbursements out there, and you've kind of got to treat each reimbursement differently. So the first sort of reimbursement we are going to be talking about in the video is going to be lost inventory. This is simply put, if I go and send in 100 units and Amazon say they've had 95, well, I should go and get reimbursed for those 5 that they've lost. And this is probably the most common. I'd actually say I probably end up having about 1 to 2 reimbursements every single day for this, and that is Amazon damaging it. Now, they might damage it on the import, they might damage it when they're storing it, and they might damage it when they send it. But they seem to damage it a lot, and yeah, you'll find this probably being the most common reimbursement out there. And probably one of the most painful reimbursements is the customer returns one. This is, for example, someone goes and buys a product off you, they don't really like it, they say they've returned it, they don't necessarily always return it, and now you're kind of left there. Well, luckily in this case, you actually do go and get a reimbursement in this situation. And a little bit like the first reimbursement we talked about where, you send in 100, they say they got 95. Well, because I guess they're working on such a high scale, you can have 100 items, they've checked in 100 items, but randomly they'll go and lose 5 items. Again, this is something you need to go and chase up because once again, you should go and get reimbursed for those 5 they've lost in their warehouse. So there are plenty of different categories of you're going to get reimbursed for. But the problem is each case is going to be slightly different, and the sort of time frames which you've got to work on, for example, you can't make a reimbursement until 30 days after, but then you've got to do it within 90 days of them losing it. Well, it can be different for each reimbursement, which can leave it being an absolute nightmare to keep on top of. Well, as a result of it being a nightmare, what some people actually turn to is third-party agencies. These are basically agencies that will do the reimbursement for you, but they can take about a 20 to 40% cut of what you end up getting reimbursed. So for example, maybe you're going to go and get 500 quid back, but you actually end up getting 300 quid back because they go and take their cut. Now, you may look at this and go, well, that's 300 quid I wouldn't have got anyway. Not necessarily, because sometimes what happens with these third-party reimbursement claim sites is that they'll actually go and put in the claim before Amazon does their automatic reimbursement. Because not all reimbursements you do have to make a claim for, but what ends up happening with the third parties is they kind of claim that even the ones that you wouldn't have had to do anything for manually, there you went and got you that reimbursement. So as a result, the best thing to basically go and do is to understand the timeline which reimbursements work on, to track them yourself, and when Amazon aren't going to go and give you that reimbursement, then go and chase that reimbursement with a claim. So the manual process starts inside Amazon Seller Central. All you have to do is you're going to have to go and cross-reference your inventory reports with your shipment reports and return data. So on the inbound shipments, you're looking for items that were shipped but not received. And with your returns data, you're looking for items that were returned but your inventory wasn't restocked. And with your inventory reports, you're going to be looking for items that were damaged but not reimbursed. So a nice example right here is an inbound shipment. So I had an inbound shipment and I was expecting for them to receive 115 units. They only received received 104 units. So now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go and make a case with the discrepancy of units. Now, how am I going to go and do that? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the top right and I'm going to hover over help. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to manage support cases. Now, a little tip with this, I actually recommend loading this up on a new tab. So what I would do is I'd go over to manage support cases and then I'd go and open it on a new tab. Why would I go and open it on a new tab? Because all this information that's in front of me right here is really useful to go and put into the case. So how do we go and create a case? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the top right and we're going to go create a new issue. Now you've got the selection of where does your issue follow under. So it can follow under any of these. And if you don't find it following under any of these, you can go into my issue is not listed. I personally end up using this more times than not because my issue doesn't fully fit under these. And then you want to go and fill in your details. For example, right here, we're talking about what the shipment ID is. And in that shipment ID, how many of each FN SKU. So if you're missing multiple, you're going to talk about each FN SKU and you're going to talk about how many there are. You then also want a brief description of what problem you're going through and what you'd like as a resolution. And it can also be useful to add files. So for example, maybe you sent in 100 units and you've got an invoice of you buying 100 units. That can also help back up your case. So then you would go and submit the case. And as you can imagine, having one of these every now and again isn't too bad. It's not a crazy amount of admin work. I just alone with damaged goods in the warehouse have about 1 to 2 a day, and the amount of time I'd end up spending on admin just really wouldn't end up being worth it. Especially because if I haven't included enough information or gone into enough detail, it can end up being a real back and forth with Amazon and I may not even end up getting reimbursed in the end. But that is where SellerToolKit comes in, because not only will it go and save you lots of time with the reimbursements you do find, it will also make sure you don't miss out on any you haven't found. And that's where SellerToolKit has a inbuilt reimbursement system that has a consistent ongoing tracker of your inventory. It will automatically detect lost and damaged inventory so you don't have to manually do it. And they also allow you to go and filter your reimbursements via medium, high and low. This allows you to prioritize which reimbursements to go and chase first so that you don't go and miss deadlines. And one of the best features in the SellerToolKit reimbursement is earlier we talked a little bit about, you have to include this relevant information, and actually getting all that information, making sure you've got enough information can take a fair bit of time with admin. Plus, especially if you're a new user, it's very hard to know what information Amazon wants you to be able to get the reimbursement. Well, SellerToolKit go and create the case for you. And if you're interested, you can get a free 2-week trial of SellerToolKit by clicking on the link in the description, and you don't even have to add any payment details. So what I'm going to do right now is just going to run through a quick tutorial. If you're brand new in SellerToolKit, how can you get to that point of being able to get the reimbursement cases? So the first thing you're going to have to do is log into your SellerToolKit account and connect it to your Amazon account via the API onboarding process. And what this allows SellerToolKit to do is to have active visibility of your inventory. And don't worry, because this is only a process you have to do once, because once it's done, SellerToolKit is then going to actively be able to track your inventory continuously. So what does SellerToolKit import? It imports your inventory, imports your shipments, and it imports your returns data. And from there, it starts to reconcile it. So what does SellerToolKit reconciling mean? Well, basically what it's doing is it's comparing what you've said you've done to Amazon compared to what Amazon has actually received. So it's comparing, have you said that you sent over 100 units compared to Amazon saying, we've only got 95, and it's finding those discrepancies. And once it goes and finds those discrepancies, it's then going to flag them in one of their dashboards. And this is really convenient because Amazon Seller Central often won't tell you about these discrepancies. So some of the really important information to take away from here is the reconcile time. So this is basically when the reconciliation occurred, and from this time you've got 60 days to act to be able to get your reimbursement. And then another really important piece of information, especially to work out which one you should be prioritizing, is the estimate amount owed. So for example, this right here is only £2, whereas if I scroll down, maybe I want to go and prioritize this one where I'm going to go and get £6.40. Whereas I'm not going to go and prioritize this plain bill set because actually it thinks I'm only going to be able to get 90p back. So those 60 days that I was talking about, how long you have to go and get that reimbursement, well, if we're getting close to the end of those 60 days, you may want to then go and make that manual case. And to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to head over to the reconcile dashboard. You're going to go and click on this, and then you're going to go to raise a case. This is going to go and give you all the information that you then need to go and submit into an Amazon case. All you've got to do is go and click on that, and it's going to go and copy all of that. And all you've got to do is paste that into a case over on the Amazon Seller Central. And once again, to go and submit a case over on Amazon Seller Central, you're going to go into the top right, Going to go on to help, then you're going to go to manage support cases. Once you've clicked on that, you're then going to go and open a new case. And as you can see, the case has got all the information that Amazon requires. It's got SKUs, it's got FN SKUs, and again, if sort of shipment IDs are relevant, it'll also include that. And it's also formatted it really nicely. Well, due to that, it's also going to decrease the chance of us having back and forth with Amazon and them just sorting out straight away. So once Amazon has given you a reimbursement, you can actually see those reimbursements pop up here on the SellerToolKit dashboard. All you got to do is head over to the left and scroll down to reimbursements. And as you can see right here, we've got a product right here that was a damaged warehouse. That was the what we're getting reimbursed for. We can see what the reimbursement amount was. Sometimes you're going to profit, sometimes you're going to loss from it. But the nice thing in SellerToolKit is it'll actually go and update your whole profit and loss from this reimbursement, allowing it to be nice to keep on top of your figures and knowing if your business is profitable or not. So if you want to handle your reimbursements properly without spending hours in Amazon Seller Central or handing over 20 to 40% of that reimbursement to a third party, well, SellerToolKit covers the whole process for you. And like I said earlier, there is a 2-week free trial of SellerToolKit just by clicking on the link in the description. So you might as well go and see what money Amazon owes you. And if you want a full tutorial on how to make the most out of SellerToolKit, make sure to go and check out this video right here.